There's a question most Virgos have never truly asked themselves, not because it's difficult to answer, but because it's too uncomfortable to confront. The question is simple. Is the version of Virgo you live every day the version you would choose, if you could choose? Not the version you present, not the version people praise, the version you find when you're alone, when the silence becomes too heavy and your thoughts start spinning endlessly. That version, who is it really? Because there's something about Virgo that the whole world thinks it understands, but almost no one truly does. People see the organization, the competence, the attention to detail that leaves nothing to chance. They see someone reliable, someone who delivers, someone you can call on when things get serious. And all of that is real, but it's the surface. It's what Virgo lets show. There's one thing almost every Virgo has heard about themselves, that they're a perfectionist, detail-oriented, and critical. And most agree, because it's true, and because that description is reliable. It's the part of Virgo that everyone sees and understands. But what if I told you that this description, however accurate it may seem, is hiding something much more important from you? There isn't just one type of virgin in the world. There's the virgin who uses everything she has, analysis, discernment, that almost impossible ability to see what's not working before anyone else notices, against herself. And there's the virgin who uses those exact same tools to build something the world hasn't yet seen. The instrument is identical. The mind is the same. What changes is where it is pointed. And in this video, I'm going to show you not only which of these versions you're living now, but what specifically is keeping you there, and what changes when Virgo finally stops being its own obstacle. Stay until the end. What comes next will sound familiar in a way that will be hard to ignore. What lies beneath is something else entirely. Beneath it lies a mechanism that works non-stop, a mind that doesn't know how to switch off, that reviews what has already been done, that is already thinking about the next problem before finishing the current one. An inner voice that is never completely satisfied, that always finds what could have been better, that applies a level of demand to itself that it would never apply to anyone it loved. And here's what few realize. This mechanism didn't spring from nothing. It was built, brick by brick, over years as a response to a very old discovery. The discovery that when everything is in its place, when nothing escapes, when you do everything right, things become safer. Chaos recedes, people become satisfied, you can breathe. So Virgo learned to be excellent as a way to be protected. The problem isn't excellence. The problem is what happens when that standard turns completely inward, when the same level of relentless analysis that Virgo would apply to a project, a plan, a world problem, begins to be applied to herself. When the tool of precision becomes a weapon of self-criticism. When the discernment that could illuminate the path begins to illuminate only the flaws. And there's a very clear sign of when this is happening. It's not self-criticism itself, because Virgo will always have self-criticism. It's part of how this sign processes the world. The sign is when this self-criticism starts to resemble identity. When Virgo can no longer separate "I was wrong about this" from "I am insufficient." When the analysis of the mistake ceases to be a tool and becomes a judgment. It is at this moment that Virgo gets stuck. And the most disturbing thing is that she usually doesn't realize it, because she continues functioning, she continues delivering, she continues being the person others call. On the outside, everything seems fine. On the inside, there's a silent weariness that no one sees. An exhaustion that doesn't come from work. It comes from the constant war against oneself. And it is precisely here that the question I asked at the beginning comes back in full force. Is the version of Virgo you are experiencing now the version you would choose? Because there is more than one version of Virgo in the world. I'm not talking about astrological types. I'm not talking about ascendant or moon. I'm talking about something much more concrete and much more decisive. I'm talking about where Virgo points the sharpest instrument it has within itself. Two versions of the same sign, the same instrument, the same sharp mind, completely opposite directions. The difference between these two versions is not talent, not effort, not discipline. The difference is something else, and that is it. This difference that Virgo carries within itself, without knowing how to name it, without knowing how to overcome it, it exists, and it changes everything when you finally manage to see it head-on. It was while searching for answers to this that I found this digital book, The Divine Path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose. Is not an astrology manual. It's almost an internal conversation with your own nature, written in a way that Virgo understands instinctively because it speaks the language of discernment, clarity, and the search for what is real. It doesn't promise perfection. It promises something more useful, the ability to perceive when you are using your best tool against yourself and how to begin pointing it toward what truly matters. You are at a specific point now. He recognized something within himself that was there, but perhaps had never been named with such clarity. This recognition has a window of opportunity, and it gets smaller as the day goes on if the Virgo mind finds something else to process. It is precisely when the perception is still alive that action makes all the difference. The link is in the first pinned comment, but be aware, this content may be taken down. Click now and download your copy. And while you're doing that, answer me in the comments. Which of the two versions of Virgo do you recognize more in yourself now? The one that uses discernment to build itself up, or the one that still uses it to tear itself down? Write it down below. That answer says more about where you are than any astrological chart. So let's talk about what actually separates one version from the other. Because the version of Virgo that gets stuck has very specific signs. They aren't character flaws, they are patterns so integrated into the routine that they seem like personality, when in reality they are learned responses that at some point cease to serve their purpose. The first sign is relentless self-criticism. Not the self-criticism that serves to improve, that's healthy, it's part of how Virgo functions. I'm talking about the self-criticism that begins even before the result, that analyzes the process while it's still happening, that finds what could have been different even before finishing what's being done now. This version of self-criticism isn't analysis, it's preventative punishment. The second sign is the difficulty in receiving. Virgo is extraordinary at giving time, attention, effort, care. She perceives what people need before they themselves realize it. But when someone tries to reciprocate, when someone offers help, when someone praises her without asking, the trapped Virgo retreats. She minimizes it. She finds a flaw in the praise. She redirects the subject, as if receiving were a kind of debt she doesn't know how to repay. And the third sign, perhaps the most subtle and the most devastating, is help turning into control. Virgo helps because they genuinely want things to work. But when they can't separate "I want it to work" from "I need it to work my way," the help becomes something burdensome. People around them begin to feel they can't do anything without them reviewing, correcting, and adjusting, and Virgo starts to feel indispensable in a way that exhausts them. These three patterns, endless self-criticism, inability to receive, and controlling help, are the markers of the Virgin still operating within the protective mechanism she built long ago. The mechanism that learned that excellence equals security. And here's the point that needs to be made clear. These patterns are not weakness. They are proof of extremely high intelligence that has been misdirected. Because Virgo has something that very few signs possess, an internal instrument of precision that perceives what isn't working before anyone else, an emotional and analytical seismograph that detects tremors before the ground shakes. This instrument is real, it's powerful, it's literally Virgo's superpower, but a seismograph that's trying to measure itself will never give a clean reading. It needs to be stabilized to work. It needs a firm ground to detect what's moving. And the firm ground that Virgo needs doesn't come from the outside. It doesn't come from validation. It doesn't come from approval. It doesn't come from results that confirm she's good enough. This ground comes from within, from a different relationship with her own discernment, from learning to trust her perception without needing it to be perfect before it's valid. Because Virgo often does something that seems prudent, but in practice is sabotage. They wait to be absolutely certain before acting. They analyze once more, check one more detail, seek one more confirmation. And while waiting for a certainty that will never be complete, because absolute certainty doesn't exist for any sign, for any human being, the window of opportunity passes. This is not weakness. It's the protection mechanism operating at its limit. It's Virgo trying to ensure the instrument is perfect before using it. But an instrument that is never used because it's never ready is, in practice, a useless instrument. The most powerful version of Virgo learns to use the instrument even when it still seems imperfect. Learning that discernment in motion is worth infinitely more than discernment on hold. This inner seismograph that Virgo possesses, this ability to sense what's not working before anyone else, is exactly what the divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose addresses in a way that makes sense for those born under this sign. Not as theory, but as a real practice of discernment, learning to point this precision toward what builds, not what tears down. For the Virgo who is tired of feeling everything so intensely without knowing what to do with it, this digital book delivers a new language for a capacity you've always had. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey toward the clarity and genius you deserve. So what does Virgo do when it starts to break free from its trapped version? The first thing that changes isn't the behavior, it's the direction of the gaze. The virgin who begins to operate in the most powerful version of herself does not abandon analysis. She would be incapable of that, and she wouldn't need to. What she does is stop using analysis as a tribunal and begin to use it as a compass. The difference is enormous. The tribunal condemns, the compass guides. When analysis becomes a compass, Virgo begins to perceive something that has always been there, but that she never managed to see because she was too busy examining herself. She sees patterns that others don't. She notices when a system won't work before it fails. She sees what's missing in a situation before the absence becomes a problem. She feels, literally feels, when something isn't true, when an alignment is forced, when a solution seems right but isn't the right one. This is not perfectionism. This is discernment, and discernment, when exercised with clarity and without paralyzing self-criticism, is one of the rarest forms of intelligence that exists. The virgin who has reached her most powerful version of herself has a different stance in the world. She still notices what is wrong, but doesn't waste energy trying to fix what isn't hers to fix. She still helps, but helps from a place of abundance, not fear. She still analyzes, but the analysis ends in direction, not judgment. And most importantly, she stopped asking permission to occupy space. She stopped downplaying what she perceives so as not to seem arrogant. She stopped hiding what she knows because she doesn't want people to feel judged. This version of Virgo speaks, and when she speaks, what she says matters. A pianist who spends years trying not to make mistakes produces technically correct but emotionally empty music. The moment he stops playing to avoid mistakes and starts playing to communicate, that moment transforms the sound. The instrument is the same. The notes are sometimes the same, but something changes in the quality of what reaches the listener. Virgo knows this moment. She has felt it before, perhaps briefly, perhaps in a specific project, in a conversation where something clicked unexpectedly, on a day when the analysis was less burdensome and the clarity was more spontaneous. She knows what it's like when the instrument is aligned with the right intention. She knows what it's like when discernment serves something greater than the concern about making a mistake. The problem is that these moments seem exceptional. They seem like luck, like coincidence, like the result of favorable external conditions. And Virgo spends most of its time waiting for external conditions to align again, instead of realizing that the condition that changed wasn't external, it was internal. For a moment, she stopped trying to control the outcome and simply used what she had. And that was enough, more than enough. This transition from Virgo who plays to avoid mistakes to Virgo who plays to communicate has a map, and it's in the divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose. Not as a recipe to be followed step by step, but as a mirror that shows, with precision, where your energy is being spent on self-criticism and where it could be invested in real purpose. For the Virgo who already has the ability but hasn't yet found the right angle to apply it, this digital book is the turning point. Limited availability. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. But how does this shift happen in practice? Because Virgo doesn't trust abstractions. She needs to understand the mechanism. She needs to know how it works. And the mechanism is simpler than it seems, although it's not easy. It all begins with a very specific realization that the critical inner voice is not Virgo. It's the protective system that Virgo has built. They are different things. And when Virgo manages to make that separation, even if it's for a second, even if it's just for a single moment of the day, something begins to change, because in that second, she realizes she has a choice. It's a choice about what to feel. Feelings aren't controllable like that, but it's a choice about what to do with what you perceive, about where to direct the analysis, about which version of yourself to give voice to. This realization doesn't come all at once. It comes in layers. First, as a feeling of strangeness. Why am I doing this to myself? Then as recognition, I've done this before, I know this pattern. And finally, as a conscious choice, I can choose differently here. The virgin, who has reached an inner turning point, is not a virgin who has stopped feeling. She's a virgin who has stopped believing that everything she feels is absolute truth, who has stopped treating every self-critical thought as a final diagnosis, who has learned to use discernment over discernment itself. It's like a magnifying glass. For a long time, Virgo used the magnifying glass, focusing the sun directly on itself, and it burned. The turning point isn't throwing the magnifying glass away, it's repositioning it. The same sun, the same magnifying glass, a different position, and now it illuminates instead of burning. This repositioning from a magnifying glass that burns to one that illuminates doesn't happen by accident. It's the result of inner work that goes against everything Virgo has learned to value, abandoning control as a security strategy. The divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose was created to accompany exactly this process. The moment when Virgo stops treating its own mind as an enemy and begins to treat it as an ally. For those who are in this turning point now, or for those who feel they are about to go through it, this digital book arrives at the right time. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. And when Virgo arrives at that place, at that internal repositioning, what emerges is not immediate lightness. It is something more solid than lightness. It is clarity. Clarity about what matters and what doesn't, about what is yours and what you are carrying for others, about where your discernment is a gift and where it was a burden. The most powerful version of Virgo is not the one that never made a mistake. It's not the one that finally became satisfied with what it produced. It's not the one that found the perfection it pursued for so long. It's the one that stopped needing perfection to feel worthy of being here. This Virgo will still notice what's wrong. You'll still feel discomfort when something doesn't fit. You'll still want things to work. But she will realize, with a clarity she didn't have before, that her role was never to fix everything. It was to see accurately and to use that vision in service of what is true, what is beautiful, what is real. And something changes when Virgo stops trying to be indispensable out of fear and starts being present by choice. Relationships become lighter, not because she started caring less, but because she stopped carrying the weight of results that didn't depend solely on her. Work becomes more fluid, not because it became easier, but because Virgo stopped revisiting what has already been done and started trusting what she has already delivered. There's a quality of presence that the most powerful Virgo develops that's difficult to describe to those who aren't of that sign. It's not detachment. Virgo will never be detached and doesn't need to be. It's more like an anchoring, an ability to be fully present in a situation without being swallowed up by it, to see everything accurately without being paralyzed by what one sees, to feel the weight of things without needing that weight to be distributed back to those around them. This is the Virgin Mary that people around her begin to seek out, not because she solves everything, but because when she is present, things become clearer. Not necessarily easier, clearer. There is a type of lighthouse that doesn't try to control ships. It doesn't direct, order, or impose routes. It simply illuminates, and each ship, with the available light, finds its own way. Virgo, in its most powerful form, is that beacon, not because he gave up on precision, but because he learned that precision, when experienced from a place of clarity and not fear, doesn't need to control in order to work. It simply illuminates, and that, in itself, is enough to change everything around it. You always knew how to see what others didn't. The issue was never ability. It was learning to trust it. It was stopping apologizing for it. It was letting it exist in the world without needing to be justified, diminished, or disguised as something lesser. This is the version of Virgo that the world needs, not the perfect version, the true version. And she, that version, already exists within you. She always has. She was just waiting for you to stop questioning whether she deserved to appear.